I think it's time we blow this scene. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
On today's episode of Woman Reactions React to Black Clover, episode 99, The Desperate Path Toward Survival. First and foremost, let me say that Mereoleona is a freaking beast. And this episode just goes to show you how much of a badass she truly is. Now, last we left off, Mereoleona is back in action and seems to be diving right into the fray. All the meanwhile, battles are still raging at the Eye of the Midnight Sun's hideout, including one showcasing his sister, which after being confronted by 5 elves, decides to go it alone, tossing both Asta and Zora to safety, then destroys the escape route. So here we start off this episode. It is 5v1. We have Rill, we have Angel, we have a sand dude from the Crimson Lions, and then we got the snow chick that I believe was on Langris's team. Anyway, she was part of the final selection exam. Not to mention, we have OG elf Raya versus the lioness. Now at this point, I'm shaking in my boots. I'm over in a corner, in the fetal position, sucking my thumb, pissing myself. And she got them big giant lady balls going, you know what? I'm gonna fucking kill all of you. And she even says, you know what? I didn't throw them to safety. They were just gonna get in my way. And if anyone else would have said it, I would have been like, no, you wanted them to be safe. Like, I think she wants them to be safe, but in reality, knowing her personality up until this point, she might actually think little rookies would probably get in the freaking way. She's gonna go it alone. And honestly, 1v1, she'd destroy. 2v1, she'd probably win. 3v1, that's like where I'm cutting it. Honestly, they only won because of the numbers. But how she goes out like a freaking badass. And I know one person in particular compared it to a Yonko from One Piece. I'm assuming you mean Whitebeard. I also thought of One Piece, but I thought of Zoro. Like, she literally was taking a barrage of attacks, decides to go in like Super Saiyan mode. That is still not enough to do any kind of damage. Not to mention the snow chick. She's using her magic to dull everyone's senses, and eventually everyone's gonna pass out and shit. So she's like running out of stuff to do. So she goes self-destruct, unleashing what I assume is her pan-ultimate spell. It's monozone, full release, fire magic, Gladius Brachium Purgatory, and in a huge explosion, incinerates the entirety of the room. And this is still not enough to take out the elves. They did quote, though, they had to pour a majority of their mana in defense. Now, this is where we see the badass scene of her just kind of like standing there, unconscious. Like, how much of a badass do you have to be standing and unconscious? Like, has that really ever happened in real life? Like, that's the shit you only see in anime. I don't know if it's the elves talking about doing her in, but she snaps back into consciousness. Come on, guys, come at me. Come on, now's your time to attack. Now, at this point, it really makes you think maybe she is just buying, Asta and Zora some time, but at the same time, I don't know. She's just so much of a badass. And it's funny, the elves really are running out of mana. They have to combine their attacks to take out this beast of a woman. Now, they use compound magic elemental quintet. It actually resembles, Patri's, one of his light kind of sword thingies. So they finally unleash it. And I'm thinking to myself, how the hell is she gonna pull out of this one? Well, come out of nowhere, you see one of Zora's spells activate. They rush in, he absorbs the magic, and now it's doubled. But they're not stopping there. We see a conversation between Asta and Zora. I want everyone to make it. We're gonna do this. Well, Zora's just like beating the shit out of him. Like, how do you think we need to use this time to escape? How are we gonna do this? Doubling that spell won't even do anything. We know what? Asta obviously has some amazing battle sense. Launch that thing at me. I'll hit it back to you. Now it'll be quadruple. So right before Zora's spell is about to crack and disintegrate, Asta gets right behind it and launches it at the elves. And all we see basically is this giant explosion. Asta, Zora grab Mereoleona and jump, escaping through the ground. Now's their time to run. But before they have really any time to celebrate, before they can get really any farther, guess who shows up? Frickin' Raya, using spatial magic. Yes, obviously a quadruple combined reflected elemental quintet is not enough to take this sucker down. He grabs Asta. You're not going anywhere, you little shit. I want that book and those swords back. They don't belong to you, they belong to the real licked. And right before he is pulled through this rift, he throws the captain to Zora and gives him that, don't worry, I'll make it out of this. I'll see you later. You just make sure you get out of here alive. And he gives him that fucking, quintessential Terminator 2 thumb as going in the lob. Yeah, going through the rift. He's got that thumb just going down. And where does he pop out? Yes, in front of the real licked, who's also there with Klaus, the glass dude, or chubby dude as Aztec has called him. Mimosa, who is now been attacked by Klaus and put up on a freaking crucifix. Oh yeah, and Yuno. So we finally get that quintessential scene I've been waiting for since the revelation of Yuno becoming an elf, is Asta confronting Elf Yuno. Damn, that was a pretty wild episode. Now, I wouldn't be doing my due diligence if I didn't point out an obvious fact. Up until this point, I keep trying to shove Black Clover in this vacuum of seasonal anime, comparing it to Demon Slayer, One Punch Man Season 1, My Hero Academia, and it's just unfair to the series. Like it or not, this is a weekly show, and the animation in today's episode reflects that. If I had to title this a subtitle, it'd be Missed Opportunities. Because of the battle, as well as setting up the future confrontation between Yuno and Asta, overall this episode still is good, but could it have been better? Absolutely. Her fight was definitely a mixed bag when it comes to certain scenes. Some were amazing, especially the close-ups of her. Those things are just above par. But other scenes, they lacked depth and overall weight and had none of the impact of the other ones, leading to almost a patchwork of animation. Now, we all know the story by now. Black Clover doesn't really get a lot of love when it comes to Studio Pro, and they seem to outsource a lot of their scenes. But this one in particular, it hit harder for me than most. Why? Because of the lioness. She's been talked up since day one of her introduction as being the end-all be-all most badass woman in Black Clover. So today I went into this expecting, super dynamic and fluid animation, and like I said, today was just very spotty. Now I think the reason that I can pick this stuff out is because I'm literally growing along with the series, something I very rarely do. The art, the animation, the world, the story, the characters, I'm evolving with it. And because I'm so focused on it, I think I can pick out its flaws that much easier. And it's also why they hit me that much harder. Now in a perfect world, Black Clover would have weekly animation that looks amazing. But I know we're never gonna get that. Hell, I don't even know if we're getting the next season since it still hasn't been renewed. Personally, I don't mind if we switch to seasonal. But in the end, I'm still glad that we are getting a weekly series, a series that I absolutely love. And I just hope one day Studio Pierrot gives it the same amount of love that I do. Okay, tangent over. So let's talk about Black Clover again. Now, like I said, this episode set up the future confrontation between Elf Yuno, which supposedly from what Klaus said still doesn't have his self-aware or a sense of self, and Asta. Everyone else seems to be escaping the hideout. We still got Yami and Finril, I think trying to save Langris. I mean, you got a bunch of other elves still at the, the capital. And what you guys are saying is it's only gonna get better from here. Even despite what I said earlier, I'm still in love with this series. So with that being said, I still cannot wait for future episodes.